Morning, guys. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is doing well. This is your daily market outlook for today. And before we get into the charts, I just want you guys to know that the content on this YouTube channel, inside my Discord, or in general with anything that I do is for educational and informational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my video should be considered financial, investment, or trading advice. Understand that trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Any past performances discussed does not also guarantee future results. You are responsible, as always, for your own financial decisions. So, with that being said, obviously we had FOMC yesterday, as you guys could see FOMC minutes that we had yesterday. So, of course, that's the reason why there was no daily market outlook. You guys who have obviously been with me for a while, I will tend to not do a daily market outlook on a big news event just because I feel like from past experiences, it helps in wrongly or it impacts people wrongly to make decisions from a technical standpoint when I start talking about zones or whatnot. So yeah, that's why there was no video yesterday. But going into today, obviously we've got orange folder news for the US dollar at 230. So that is something to keep an eye on. And then tomorrow, Canadian dollar news for for two at 230. So that's what we got for the rest of the week in regards to the news calendar. Let's have a look at what is going on in regards to the chart. So looking at the dollar, we can pretty much see everything that we talked about has played out perfectly so far. We had this daily demand area in which we got a reaction from, but we talked about the fact that market was and has reacted from this little trap area here, this little daily supply area. And then when market gave us this institutional move down, we talked about this daily supply candle, this black candle here being our next area in which market could retrace back into from this demand and then potentially go and get this. Now, of course, looking at market conditions, we haven't had the full break, especially these lows just right now. But ideally, I would like to see the market come into this daily demand area, and then we can obviously make a decision to know if we go long or if we carry on short. So pretty easy to understand from a daily standpoint. Now, jumping into the four. What can we see? So from a 4 hour, well, basically market's consolidating at this moment in time. If you look at this big square box that we can just draw out here, you can see that market has, failing to just do what it should be doing, which is either breaking the lows or breaking the highs. Ideally, this is that 4 hour, that one daily candle here, and you can see that's our 4 hour range, and that's a 4 hour supply in which I would like to see market come back into. So ideally, I would like to see, market come into this, fill in the imbalance, take out these two highs that we have and then potentially get that target down. That is obviously one scenario in which I will be keeping an eye on, of course. Now, of course, looking at this, you can see even though it's consolidated, we can try and basically predict what we think could happen. Again, my ideal area would still be this 4 hour. Yes, market, obviously shifted internal bullish to internal bearish, but still, I just think because we're stuck in that range, I'm not interested until something happens. If we get a move up here, you can obviously play the both sides. So let's say we get candle that looks clear. You can obviously play a demand area here as well as a supply and see which one wins. You can do that, but at this moment in time, the way that I approach this is just this scenario is not my favorable scenario to try and look for any sort of trades, just being completely honest with you. Or of course, what can happen is let's say this demand area here where that imbalance is. This imbalance here, we have this daily 4 hour demand candle. Let's say we do have a reaction from there. I'm not going to look to short personally. Um, if we do get a reaction from there, then you can obviously then make a decision from the next supply area potentially. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense in regards to the dollar. Okay, going into Euro USD. Let's have a look. So daily time frame, I think I talked about it on Tuesday, the fact that this is my more favorable area of daily supply. So we mentioned ideally we would like to see, market retrace into that supply, filling that imbalance, and then see what happens if market carries on, or if market gives us that shift to obviously then go and create a new daily lower low, lower high, and new daily lower low. So ideally that's what, we obviously discussed on Tuesday as well. We are in this daily supply. Um, do I think we're going to hold? I don't personally. Does that mean that we're not going to hold? No, of course, we still can obviously go down and break. And then if we do, we get a new daily supply, a new daily range where we can obviously then identify the next daily supply area. But is it my more favorable one? No, it's not. But still, it is a valid area. But we are right now consolidating in here and we are building a hell of a lot of liquidity as well. Going into the four, we obviously had this 4 hour supply in which where the market's reacted from. But I also noticed the fact that we still also had internal here bullish into that. And I obviously wanted to see this 4 hour demand be the area that potentially could give us that shift. Now, for me personally, looking at market conditions right now, you can see that we obviously still inside of this range-ish. Because if you focus on the actual trade, you can see that we had lower low, lower high, lower low. So for me, there's nothing clear enough in here to short, and that's why I didn't really look for any shorts. Um, but now obviously we've taken out this high here. Could that be, and if you look at this candle as well, that looks like volume slowing down a hell of a lot. So could that mean that this is where we get some sort of momentum down? 100% we could obviously keep an eye on that. But I'm still interested to see what happens from here because if the dollar let's say the dollar reaches this supply area and we get that shifting downwards, that could potentially align with what we're talking about with your USD. It could align with the fact that we could be dipping, taking out this low, filling the rest of this imbalance that we obviously have, and then we get that shift to obviously carry on bullish. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Again, if you possibly can trade both and look to hedge the market, you probably will be smart and be in the best position if you can look for some sort of shorts as well as longs. Definitely. But just be aware, obviously, with the dollar not being the cleanest. Let me just have a quick look at the 1 hour. Uh, this out. Yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah. This is obviously you get to that point where you're like, should I try and look on the 1 hour and then participate? But for me at the moment, I'm just thinking, let the markets tell me what it wants to do on the four, personally. Because even if we have a scenario, guys, where market doesn't come into this forward demand and we don't get that full true, dip, but let's say it plays out of some sort of demand here and then we carry on that's fine because then we obviously know the direction of the market. We broke this high, and then we can obviously look for a new fresh demand area for market to just dip back into and carry on. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, so yeah, not as clear as we would like, but we have got to play obviously what we see. Now, GBP yesterday also wasn't as clear as I would personally like. Let's just start off on a daily before we get into that. As you guys can see, we have reached this daily supply area. So it's going to be interesting to see if the daily supply area gives us that shift now to obviously go and create, new market lower lows. So what I mean by that is if you follow the structure, you can see that this is clearly the lower high and this is clearly the lower low. We had a lot of imbalance to fill, as you can see. We have this daily supply. So if we do go and create a new lower low, then obviously we need to see some sort of confirmation, but then we could target, like I said, this lower low here. But we'd have to wait and see what happens on the lower time frames. And if you go down to the lower, you guys can probably still see that we are, of course, still internally bullish. You can see that we have um, this and this as our range. But what I am keeping my eye on is the fact that we have reacted from this 4 hour supply area. We have this 4 hour supply area. We're getting a nice reaction from here now. So if for me, and if you guys obviously off your own trading plan and your own strategy, with maybe my help with this educational video, if you can get in some sort of shorts and then also looking for potential longs from here, that could be, let me just move this, that could be a good possibility. So what I mean by that is, let's just remove this. If you can catch, let me just have a look at the one. If you can catch some sort of shorts, of course, I'd like to see how this 4 hour candle finishes. Truthfully, we have 2 hours left on it. But let's say we can get some sort of entry, and you obviously look for, again, this is not me saying I'm shorting from here. This is me, this 4 hour still got 2 hours left. But let's say we can catch some sort of shorts and then also make a decision from this demand to say, okay, because this demand, everything's internal bullish. Yes, daily is bearish. Yes, we're in this 4 hour supply. Yes, maybe the 1 hour we could catch obviously bearishness, but the 4 hour still is bullish. So we could obviously just come into this demand and carry on upwards. But of course, that's where you can make a decision of being in shorts and also getting in longs if you're obviously trading live accounts and then seeing which one wins. Because which one wins, because obviously if we go long and you take a loss or you take a break even, it's fine because you're in the long. Or if you go short and you take a loss on the demand or a break even on demand, that is absolutely fine because you're in the short. Um, as you guys should know, that's something I call trapping the market. So yeah, keep an eye out on these for GBP USD. NZUSD, I just put it into the Discord. Some good trades. Well, one loss, one TP. You can see a loss on this 4 hour demand area. We came and dipped lower, so I can get rid of that now. But I took a loss on this demand area and then I took a win on this 4 hour demand area, which was clean. But let's have a look at the daily time frame. Now, if you're looking at NZUSD, you could probably notice the fact that we have this range here. We reacted out of this daily demand area, so internal is now bullish, but we have this daily range here. So the next daily supply area for me is not really as clear as I'd like, just being honest. If you look, everything's pretty clean. Potentially we can look at a 4 hour to see if we can see anything inside of there. But if you look at the fact that if you look at the four, we obviously have some imbalances, as you can see above, which could be a reason why the market is retracing to rebalance itself. So let's have a look at what's going on. If you look at the 4 hour at this moment in time, ideally what I'd like to see is some sort of retracement. We have, as you guys can probably notice, imbalance here. If we just jump down to the 2 and the 1 hour, can I see anything more clearer? I do like the look of this. Let me have a look at the one. Yeah, to be fair, that'll be my more favorable area. Would potentially be this area here to see if market comes back and then carries on from here. That could be obviously a possibility for sure. That definitely could be. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this area. Again, does that align with the dollar? Well, again, if you look at the dollar, if we're going to go bullish now into the supply, then that could be the bearishness into this demand that we are looking for. Okay, pretty simple. AUD, USD, not been the best to be fair, but if you look, let's have a look at the dailies quickly. You can see we have this daily supply area, which is where I'm waiting for the market to basically retrace to. Ideally, that's what I'd like to see, but we are reacting from this daily candle here. This daily candle, you can refine that now if needs be to this last sell candle that causes bullish momentum. So we're inside there, we've started to slowly move out. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we get to this demand area. supply area, going into the four. Truthfully, I've been waiting for this 4 hour supply inside of that demand. I don't like the look necessarily from AUD USD just because we obviously had this reaction from this 1 hour demand inside that four, inside that daily. You see, market came back into this demand, beautiful reaction again. And then we had internal bullish into this reaction, bullish again, and then we've had a shift in structure. As you guys can see, we just pull this to the side. You've gone from internal bullish to bearish, which for me, when that happens, I start to look left. And on the 4 hour, I can't see anything here as to why the market should be moving. We have a lot of imbalance above this area, above where below this supply, above these highs. So it's a little bit worrying for me personally. But if I go down to the one, can I see anything different? Well, if you look at the fact that we probably have this area of 1 hour supply, but is that enough for me to short from truthfully and get this momentum? It's not. Like this 1 hour supply area is not enough for me to look for shorts on. I ideally want to see the retracement. So I'm not going to come in here and say to you guys, oh yeah, I would have caught any shorts I'm in here because I wouldn't. Um, Ideally, like I just said, there's a lot of imbalance on this 4 hour here to potentially come back into. So yeah, AUD USD, not for me. Okay, going into USD CAD, let's have a look at what's going on. You can see that we're inside that daily supply area that we have discussed on Tuesday. You can see it's a valid area as well because market slowed down a lot. We do have a lot of imbalance, but market has been extremely bullish, as you can see from the charts. So it's one of them where is it a risk to short? Well, yes, of course, because of the momentum that's obviously happened. But does that mean that market can't short? No, of course not. So we would look to short if it makes sense. And at this moment in time, if you look at this area, it's not the healthiest. It's really not the healthiest, just to be completely honest with you guys. We obviously had this 4 hour demand area which market reacted from, but we failed to go and carry on to break these highs. So, looking at this scenario, we have this supply area here, which is where market is still currently coming back into. Market obviously tapped in, moved away, it's still back into that area. So, if I'm being completely honest, if you look at this, we have low, low, and low here. So, that's obviously a target that we can aim for. But, and we also have high, high, and high here, which again is also liquidity that we can aim for. So ideally, what I would like to see is if market comes and gives us a nice clean break of these lows, then we can obviously look for better shorting opportunities potentially into this demand. Or vice versa, if market continues above, then obviously we can look for better longing opportunities for that. But again, if you do look at the one, let's just have a quick look. You can see internal is bearish, to be fair. So yeah, but for me, like I said, I'm just going to set my hands with AUD, USD, and USD card at this moment in time. I don't even like this reaction, to be fair. Yeah, that's a lot of momentum coming in. So yeah, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. USD CHF, beautiful. Should we just put this into the Discord? Um, let's have a look at what's going on from the daily time frame. So as you guys can currently see, we talked about this a lot. Let me just move this. We talked about this a hell of a lot on Tuesday. The fact that we are bullish, of course, we have this daily demand, this daily high, this daily higher low. And market obviously had this demand, but we reacted from here. But one thing we noticed was we had obviously an internal shift. You had this candle here, which left imbalance and left the supply, and that's where market came back into and give us some sort of reaction away from. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if this demand is going to hold and we carry on, or if this supply is going to hold and we carry on shorting. And if we carry on shorting, it will most likely be to this demand area to fill in these imbalances as well. Um, so definitely keep an eye out on that. Let me just move this from the daily time frame. Going into the 4, let's see what is going on. So you can see that's the trade idea. 1 hour supply inside of that 4 hour. So let's have a look. 4 hour, I'm not really a massive fan of. As you can see, with just this large wick, that could be indicating that bulls are coming into the market. So have a look at the 1. Obviously, you could probably see something a little bit different. And the areas, if the 1 hour was to carry on shorting, the areas that I'd be looking out for personally would be this area here that you can probably notice. That's probably my favorable area, maybe. Just because if you look, this market, this area pullback here, filled in the imbalance and taps into this area that we have. So I don't know. Let's see if market potentially does give us, the reaction from here to carry on shorting. Um, Again, let's just be wary. Does that align with US dollar? Well, maybe it could do. But yeah, that is a supply area, like I just said, which I will be keeping an eye on for USD CHF. Um, USD Japanese yen, let's see what she's doing. It has had a good reaction from that 4 hour supply. We'll talk about that in a minute. You guys will notice I talked about that supply area and seeing if market could carry on downwards, but we are extremely bullish. So market could potentially just, carry on from now, unless we get a significant indication that market is going to carry on bearish. Well, if you look at this, you can still see that we have, this internal is obviously extremely bullish at this moment in time. So could market just be carrying on? Yes, of course. Um, it seems pretty corrective here. Nothing really to look for buys from. If we jump down to the 1, can I see anything different? Well, you can see a beautiful type entry that I teach in my course here. We have engulfing candle away. If anyone would have seen this, who does my course, you guys probably could have caught, let's say 15, 14 or 15 pip stop. Probably could have caught a nice 1 to 2 already. Obviously, short stop, you might have got something better. But yeah, what I'm going to be keeping my eye on is just a reaction. This area here already got mitigated. So it'd be interesting to see why market is reacting. Is it a lower time frame? Potentially. We have some imbalance, so you can see we've pretty much filled in that. But for me, I'm going to wait on my hands with USD Japanese yen, USD CAD, and AUD USD at this moment in time. Because if you look from a bullish reaction, there's nothing that I can even talk about, and from a bearish, there's nothing that I can really talk about. Yes, we are in this, area here now, which is the only real reason that I'd potentially look to short from. But at this moment in time, do I think it's going to carry on? Potentially not. Um, so yeah, let's see. Okay, that is your daily market outlook for today, guys. As always, I appreciate every single person tuning in. Throw a like on this video, a comment, whatever it may be. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got your notifications turned on for sure. And I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Take care and God bless.